What is up, Groovy? How are you doing, sir?
Doing pretty good. How are you?
Doing great, doing great. Glad to have you with us. Where are you coming to us from today? Looks like you got a lovely blue sky there behind you. Must be beautiful out there.
Coming out of Colorado. Just finished up ETH Denver last week, but I'm based out of Colorado, so kind of worked out perfectly. Was able to head over there for a few days and kind of do some user feedback, product discovery kind of thing.
Nice, nice. And appreciate you coming on the show, of course. I know we were trying to get you on last week, but our kind of scheduling didn't really work out. So really happy to have you on this Monday. You're not rolling out of bed. You've been ready. You're looking very fresh there. So awesome. Awesome to have you with us. So yeah, first, actually, before we start, because Sean mentioned, how are you feeling about the markets?
I thought it was interesting, what y'all mentioned in terms of 10/10, right? October, right? It's been pretty obvious that since October things have kind of been a little bit different, right? But to the point that Sean also made, I think I've always been one to prefer to build in the bear market when the markets aren't so just excitable. And I've been building on Solana since 2021, so I've been through it all through $8 Solana, right? And I think it's kind of a privilege to be able to be here and be building something that you love. And so, yeah, regardless of markets of BTC price, I'll continue to do that. And yeah, it's always interesting to see who just kind of sticks around and keeps at it, right? Because it goes without saying, markets being down, a lot of people just kind of, take leave and come back when markets get excitable again. So it's a real good way to filter who's actually here to build something for longevity as opposed to just capture like short-term price action.
Yeah, I agree. And that's where you see the real conviction from people that are legit builders in the space. And when it's a passion project of yours, it's even better. It makes the conviction even easier, in my opinion. So yeah, I mean, it's everything you want to see. And we've seen tons of projects too, just the same, just smaller projects, but really passionate about it. And this is how we do it. We all got to rise up together here. And that's why we do what we do here on Mod Media, on the trending show, because a lot of the time we find that you got really awesome builders, and with AI now you can have a very small team, but you don't have tons of capital for marketing and all that. And this is something that we feel really needs to be addressed in the space. And even if you're looking for projects to get invested in, you're out there, where do you go? You go onto X, and if there's some raids or something happening around you, you might stumble across one. But where do you really go to kind of see projects that are legitimately battling it out, for exposure? And that's what we do here. It's totally free to come on. So my opinion is, if we kind of want to bring this to the masses, we have to highlight the real legit builders, the good projects. So again, that's why we're doing this. That's why we want to highlight all these projects in the hackathon. But without further ado, why don't we get into your guys' project? It is Jigglypuff Kingdom. I'm going to just bring it up on my screen here as well, just the website that you sent to me, so I can pop it up there so people can get an idea. So I guess let's start. Give us a little breakdown on exactly what this is, how it works.
Cool. Yeah.
What's yours?
Before I go ahead and dive in, one thing I do want to commend you guys on. I love that you guys are doing this. Having participated in 2 hackathons prior, one first place in the trade and agent track as part of the Send AI / Solana hackathon.
Congratulations.
As well as, one second place in the Coliseum Breakout hackathon. And one of the cool things about those hackathons, just kind of compared to the Pump.fun Hackathon, is they really had a really nice directory to look at what everyone was building. You're able to see different projects. And it seems like you are kind of taking it a step further and doing this whole video interview thing, which I think is kind of invaluable, right? People that are, in the trenches that are supporting these hackathon projects, they want to see the founders. They want to understand how these people talk. They want to understand how these people interview. And obviously they want insight from word of mouth. What exactly are they building, right? So I'm just want to commend you guys on what you're building and how you guys are approaching this. I think it's super awesome.
Thank you.
Being said, I'll move over to what we're building. We're essentially building a trusted pricing and market intelligence layer for trading cards. Right now, we support Pokemon TCG, we support One Piece TCG, and we support Riftbound. For those who don't know, Pokemon, these are all global IP brands. These trading card markets do billions in volume yearly. So what we're building is kind of a mechanism to kind of capture that. We're not
can you explain to the layman and people that might not know, what does TCG mean?
Yeah, so TCG just stands for trading card game. So you think Pokemon, so Pokemon cards, Riftbound cards, which is backed by Riot, League of Legends, a huge MOBA. And then, of course, One Piece, which has also seen explosive growth in the past 2 years. So for those who aren't too well versed on TCG markets, some people buy these cards to collect them. Some people buy them to play the trading card game, and some people buy them to sell them. So it's these are very liquid markets, millions of users. And what we're building is to kind of connect into that. It's not another pricing site. It's not a marketplace first. It's a truth layer. So you have canonical identity, you have condition-aware pricing, confidence, as well as market context. These are basically trading or modern trading tools for people that are trading these assets today. So that's kind of the platform in itself in a nutshell.
Okay, so like let's say me as let's say I'm just Joe Blow whatever, and I go and I buy Pokemon trading cards. What would I do then? How do I get value out of this site? Walk
Yeah,
me through, let's say, the user experience. What would I do?
absolutely. So I guess for context there, in terms of what does the user experience look like now, right? So to get an accurate idea of, say, what your trading card is worth, you typically have to open around 3 to 6 tabs across check different platforms. Most platforms kind of are very sensitive about giving their data out. So if I want to know what, say, TCG Player, who is owned by eBay, is pricing these cards at, I have to go check their platform. But those prices might not be consistent with what is actually on eBay. So I'll have to then go open up eBay and cross-reference this data. Or say if I want to go check price charting, which also aggregates from both of those sources, but doesn't have the most up-to-date info, I'd have to go check price charting and then say, if I want to go get a third opinion or a fourth opinion, I'd probably go check alt XYZ. So we're trying to solve that all those different pain points by aggregating all this data on one platform, and not only offering just the prices, but a lot of different things that give traders the kind of context behind, say, whether a price move is actually backed by real confidence or backed by someone just buying a lot of cards, right? So we essentially want to aggregate all this data and display it in a way that is presented to collectors at first, so that they can see consistency across all the data that they're given.
Gotcha. Yeah, so if I went on there then and I scanned my card, you would automatically have some kind of a range aggregated from all these external third-party sources, and it would say, yeah, this card is valued between $75 and $100 or something like that.
Exactly. Yeah. So we would obviously display that data, but then we would also show you where we got our sources from. We would show you how many cells are supporting that data. We would show you liquidity context. We would show you our own composite score based off of all the data we pull in, and then display that to you in a nice, easy to read page for that particular card. The important thing to think about these particular cards is these are hard assets, right? Just like any RWA that you come across, in the real world, whether it be a watch, whether it be a phone, anything, right? All these assets are traded globally. So we want to bring all the data to help users make informed decisions for whatever they're buying or selling.
Gotcha. So it's almost like a little stock market index, basically, for trading cards.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, because we I always try to avoid like saying we're the X of Y, right? But we want to try to be the Bloomberg terminal for trading cards, right? Or the Kelly Blue Book for trading cards, right? And then that's, again, just the foundational layer that we're building. That's our truth or data layer that we want to first push out, and then everything else comes after that, whether it be API usage for builders, for enterprise customers, or whether it be a marketplace for users who just want to go to our site to trade their cards, buy, sell, and trade as well.
Gotcha. Oh, so the site itself, you'll be able to buy, sell, and trade directly within the site as well?
Eventually, yes. But it's important to note we're still in alpha, right? So right now we're really focused on data completeness. And this, of course, is what takes a lot of time, right? So we are participating in the Pump.fun Hackathon. We're also participating in the Monad Accelerator program. So we applied for that. There's like 160 teams. But I've met with both teams, right? And the interesting thing that they ask is, what is your blocker, right? What is preventing you from getting traction? And the biggest thing with what we're building is the distribution we see to actually onboarding more users is data completeness, right? We need to make sure that whenever, to your point, if a user goes and buys a card, whenever they go to our site and they search for that card, they're with 100% certainty able to find that card, and they're able to find all the sales data for that card that is current, right?
Hmm.
Being able to do that for over 38,000 cards, it does take time. So
Yeah.
that's really what we're working on right now. We just added, with the help of an AI agent that we deployed, we were able to add or increase our coverage from around 8,000 cards in our database to around 38,000 now. So
Hmm.
that's just soft support. We still have to go backfill all this sales data, but yeah, that is kind of like the big first step is data completeness, and then we can start doing all this other fun stuff, as you mentioned, with the marketplace.
Hmm.
We already do have our first customer for the API that we're working on. We'll be rolling that out V0 in March, which is a
Hmm.
JK index pricing API. So people will be able to ping our internals and grab any kind of data they want regarding pricing, data confidence, and card info.
And who would be the people, for example, that would utilize that API? What other kind of websites would do that?
Cool. Yeah. Yeah. So I think like, there's three kinds of tiers, right? You have, say, just a user who wants this for like their own personal project, their passion project. You have, say, a shop that wants to make sure that they're pulling all the latest data so that when they sell cards at, say, their brick and mortar shop, they're not losing money. And then third would be, I'd say, it's we haven't really seen it yet, but I think we're moving into this big kind of era for Pokemon and other TCGs where you have cards that are selling for upwards of 5 to 6 figures. And I think as time goes on, we're going to see these bigger institutions start investing in these assets because there's a market for them. So,
Hmm.
in the third case, you would probably say have a hedge fund that wants to maybe explore, hey, is this an asset class that we can start getting into? And is it something that we should deploy capital into? But to go back to your question, the first customer we have for our API, they will be building an app to find shows. Once you're able to find these particular card shows, you'll then be able to search by users and look at what sort of cards are they bringing to this particular card show and what are they selling them for, right? So they'll
So
also,
this would be an in-person show where people are selling them, like some event or convention or
exactly,
something like that. Gotcha.
exactly.
Okay. And have you guys been to any of these kinds of conventions? Is something you're thinking about doing for marketing efforts?
Yeah,
Or
yes. So, one of the first things, so for context, we did start this project back in December, right? I'll kind of give some context behind that.
Mhm.
I've found a few things in Web3. I've found protocols, co-authored those protocols with Metaplex, who's a big infrastructure provider, co-founded web development houses, and so a lot of that stuff was sunsetting. Thanks to AI,
Mhm.
people can kind of do their own dev work. So yeah, come like around November, I was actually, I'm a collector myself. I have a deep passion for it. So I
Mhm.
was working on my own like private portfolio card app just to kind of keep track of my own collection. Um, and it was something that I was never going to expose publicly. It was just a way for me to get back into engineering. I
Mhm.
formerly a software engineer, becoming full-time Web3. So I started working on this. And once I launched, the project, one of the first things I did was try to figure out ways that we could add to the collector space in terms of value. So the first thing I did, once I started running into these collector issues on my own, when I was looking for first edition Jigglypuffs, is I was, running into the same kind of workflow that I mentioned to you earlier. I would have to go open 3 to 6 different platforms,
Mhm.
look at different multiple prices for specific cards. And I was like, okay, this is annoying. Why has no one solved this yet? Right. So one of the first things I did was went to a card show. Obviously, I was looking for some cards, but I was also doing some, market feedback. I was talking to vendors, I was talking to collectors, people that were just selling their cards at the card show. And I really kind of honed in, what are your pain points? How do you feel about like how you have to go determine pricing now? And the third final question was like, say you had a platform that aggregated across all these marketplaces. The
Mhm.
de facto reference for what this honest, true, fair market value price for this card is, would you be interested in using that? Unanimously, everyone said yes, right?
Mhm. Right.
So I think that was kind of like the big calling. And as we've been building since December 1st, I'm building this alone, solo founder, solo engineer, product, market, all that stuff, just me.
Mhm.
And I think it's being able to move fast and get that user feedback quick is like, okay, there's something here, right? And I feel like since December 1st, there's constant validation for this is a product that the market needs. It might
Mhm.
not be like a crypto native product, but it is something TCG markets need. And I think to be able to build something in that niche allows the token integration to come later. But
Mhm.
yeah, in terms of going to card shows and doing that kind of market research, validated there, and then with this whole V0 pricing API that we're going to be rolling out in March. We actually just locked in that customer like last week, right?
Awesome.
And granted, you know, I think what y'all are doing is cool. Is like y'all are actively building in public and coming out this video series. We've been doing something very similar, but with articles. I write so many articles, and I don't think too many people read them. I do my best to kind of, you know, where my head's at, what direction are we building, why are we building in that direction, and what it means for our long-term prospects and viability, right? So yeah, it was cool to like, you know, write those articles in terms of where we want to go, because that was actually how we locked in this first customer for their show app. So yeah, it's been cool to be able to like engage and interact with the market directly and be like, hey, do y'all validate this? Is this a good idea? And it happened so rapidly. So yeah, sorry, I went on a rant there. But
no, it's all good. It's all good. I like a guy that can talk. That's good.
Like a good yapper, right?
yeah. Gift of the gab, as we'd say back home. But yeah, so I mean, hey, it's great to see. Obviously, the fact that you're a collector yourself. This is a passion project for yourself. Clearly, you're a solo dev doing this all by yourself. I gotta hook you up with our guy Crypto Joe. He's been on the show with us many times. He comes in every so often as well when he's got time and presents with us. He's a host as well. But he is a big Pokemon guy. I assume, is Pokemon your biggest trading card collection?
I would say, yeah. And you know, it was interesting going to Eat Denver this past week, right? It's like I'm working on this product now that's not necessarily in crypto, right? But at all the events I went to, had a lot of conversations about TCG markets, right? And you know, the point you just made is like not a lot of people get it. Like a lot of people don't realize that there's these massive million people participant markets out there, right? And I think that was like the biggest eye opener is going to the event. Is like, because I'm working on this product that's not really crypto native, it doesn't really seem like there's too much value in going to these events anymore, right? To the point that you made earlier is like, I should probably be going to more shows or participating in more shows. And I think that's kind of like the biggest thing, going back to what I was mentioning earlier in terms of getting to the place where the product is data complete, so that when I go to these shows, it's not talking hypothetical. It's being like, okay, well, here's our platform. Do you want to give it a go? Give me that instant feedback, because I'd love it. So yeah, no, I would love to connect with him. I think the interesting thing about, you know, I was talking to Monad, some of the Monad guys at Eat Denver, and I was telling them, you know, the whole thesis about what we're building, you know, the current offerings. You know, the biggest competitor to us right now is TCG Player, who they were acquired in 2022 for I think like $295 million by eBay. So I was telling him, you know, this is our biggest competitor, telling him about all the pain points, blah, blah. And he's like, well, why has nobody built this yet? And, you know, I was telling him it's because a lot of people just don't get it. TCG Player, they already have market dominance. They're complacent. They don't have to improve on their platform. A lot of people just don't want to go against the grain. I think, you know, that being said, if you have an insight into Pokemon markets, you realize how big of an opportunity this is. And yeah, that's why we're building. But sorry, went on around again. But
no, you're good. You're good. And I mean, I think that's a valid point too. With the trading TGC Player, let's call it. You know, if they were bought up by who did you say? Sorry, they were bought up by again eBay. Yeah, exactly. So you know, eBay when they have something like that, they're not going to want to change the prices, because if they can, you know, get over the market value through eBay, why would they want to like a legit aggregator at that point? So maybe they're kind of hamstrung in that regard, given that relationship. So you never know. Maybe there's not a good incentive for them to have something like this, which gives a great opening for someone like yourself to do it.
Yeah, you know, I think it's very interesting that you actually bring up that point, because, you know, one of the first things I did was obviously I am a Web3 native. So building a product that's not necessarily Web3, I still do want to find ways to tie into the Web3 sector. So I did talk to a lot of these platforms. You know, you have like Courtyard, you have Collector Crypt, all these other guys. And, you know, I was talking to some of these guys, and I was like, I've traded on these platforms. I've gone and pulled their gotchas. I've gotten cards out. I've paid money to get cards out. And I've noticed a tiny discrepancy between what they actually price the cards at and what the market is paying, right? And, you know, I've always wondered, is like talking to some of these guys, they're like, oh, no, our pricing's fine. And I'm like, well, your pricing's fine because you're benefiting off of it, right?
Yeah, sure, Jan.
You're not necessarily giving the accurate pricing model or the accurate price quote for what this card is valued at. You're just quoting it at what's going to benefit you the most, right? And I think, again, your point, you know, that's an excellent opportunity for a true player to come in and be like, no, this is the valid price. And yeah, going back to our earlier conversation, being able to be the Kelly Blue Book of TCGs, being able to be the de facto reference whenever someone is like, I really want to know what this fair market value for this card is. I want in the future, the vision is that they'll be able to be like, okay, I'm going to go to the JK index to not only see the fair value market, but also see the market context.
Right. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it definitely seems like there's an opening there for sure. And I know, I agree. I mean, I know the nerds and the geeks, man, that love this kind of stuff. Hey, I'm a nerd. I mean, I'm not into this, but I'm nerdy about lots of other things, and I get it. I totally get it. I know there's a massive audience for this. Let's jump into the actual, let's say, the business itself and the building of this. How long did you say you've been building this for?
I have been building since around December 1st. Yeah.
And are you building live on Pump.fun, or how are you doing that?
Yeah. So, I interesting thing is around, I think it was like maybe December 15th. I was doing all this work on this platform, and the community was getting excited about it, but they didn't really have like the context of, okay, Groovy's building, but what is Groovy doing, right? So one of the first things we did around December 15th was we actually came out with like a dev updates page on the platform. So you can see daily like changes that I'm making. And since that, before when we implemented on the 15th, it was basically just like release notes, right? But release notes can be very technical. So since then, it's like, how can we improve this to be more transparent? So it's evolved from just release notes. There's analytics. There's even, there's even like a latest ship features section. So doing everything we can to be as transparent as possible about what I'm doing every day. And then also like, what are the long-term prospects? I mentioned earlier about doing more articles and long form content on X. So been doing that as well to remind everybody about like, what exactly we're building, what we're building towards, what we're building for, why we're building what we're building, so on and so forth. I think, having been in Web3 long enough, one of the things that I've realized is you can never be transparent enough, right? Like you can never be public enough with everything you're doing. So I thought, come January, it was actually like a pretty interesting thing for the whole Pump.fun Build in Public thing to come out, because it's something we were already doing. So it's not like anything ever changed from when that was announced, and it's not something I think will change ever, even after the hackathon ends, right? Like this is a platform I think that has, there's a lot of value here, and I'm not gonna like, regardless of what the outcomes are from the hackathon, I have done enough market research, and I know as a collector what the opportunities here are. So I'm going to keep building it regardless of hackathon or not.
Yeah. And that's a question that I was going to ask you. And it's clearly seen it's a passion project. This is a long-term vision, win or no win. Tell me about the, the business itself. You said you have a customer. What is, let's say, as somebody wanting to come and avail of your service, like what's the process there? What are some of the price points? And, I mean, you've already dived into, I mean, I'm assuming it's basically utilizing the API as a third party and things like that. But, what's your own business model? What's the revenue? Obviously, you're very lean. You don't have a lot of overheads doing this. It's more time and sweat equity. I guess you're basing this on yourself. Yeah, we do the same over here. It's the best way to do it. Lean teams, low overheads. That's the way to do it these days, especially with AI. You can get away with that. But yeah, give me a little insight into the actual project itself, the inner workings, the business model.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, in terms of, the revenue and where that comes in, it all stems from completeness, as I mentioned, right? Having a whole, say, a platform that is a de facto reference, there's a lot of steps to get there, right? You need to have a platform that people trust. You need to have a platform that people rely on. And once you can get to that point, which, there's a lot of steps to get there, right? Then that's where really the distribution level or the distribution kind of lever comes in. Whether people come and use, build on our API, they embed that truth layer into whatever they're building. That's a good start. And I'd say that like the biggest important thing is, at first, it's obviously not going to be paid. It needs to be something that is structural towards what they're building on. And from there, that's where retention and monetization comes in, whether it's pro API access to everything we're doing, whether there's tools that shops can use for their own brick and mortar stores. And then beyond that is also, the marketplace. When people are actively using, say, our platform to trade, buy, sell their cards, there is a percentage of revenue that we're able to take from those transactions. So you have that accompanied with, say, different membership tiers for the platform itself. where you can actually use some of the things like AI grading and readiness. Right now, all that stuff is free. It's just more so, demonstrating what value can come later. But I think, tying on to the membership, tying on to transaction fees from selling cards on our platform, and then the API access, depending on what data say a builder, or user, or enterprise needs. I won't shy away from building exactly kind of bespoke implementations. I think the great thing about the foundation that we're building is the data layer. From there, there's so many different opportunities on how to use that data, whether it's a specific app, a specific user, or a specific shop. And but it all comes, I think, I always kind of hate talking about like the monetization stuff, because I think it's great to look ahead, but it's also great to be cognizant of the important work that's needs to be done right now for data.
Yes.
And I don't like, I'm sure you guys are aware, right? In Web3, it's always like, okay, what's next? What's next? What's next?
Oh,
like,
yes.
It's like, well, we're still working on the important foundational work. It's going to bring on all the what is next, right? And I think a lot of people in Web3 just kind of lose sight that some things do take time, right? Like, especially the point you made.
When Lambo.
But I will say, that being said, I feel genuinely blessed because I've had some really great community members join in who had they were on that other side of not having any insight about TCG markets. But once they do find out, they do see the value, right? And conversely, we've also had a lot of people who were not really crypto natives join the community. These guys were like in X chat when we started in like December, and they actually didn't first buy the token until late January, because it took them that long to be like, this is a little sus. I don't know. Let me see if he still sticks around, and then I'll kind of dabble in exposure or whatnot.
Yeah, well, it's great, the fact that you're not just, bottlenecked into just crypto. Like, reaching out into the Web2 space is a great way to go, because mass adoption eventually coming. This is how you're going to bring those people over. It's what we all want ultimately. Like I always say, we're all on the same train, we're just on separate carriages, that's all. So we gotta look for ways to bring more people into this space to achieve that mass adoption.
I think it's a beautiful thing to say, right? Because I think the first article that we wrote, it was for the Pump.fun Hackathon thing. But in that article, I think that the tagline or the headline I used was, the best way to build a Web3 product is to not build in Web3 at all, right? And it was for that same point that you made, right? It's like Web3 is so siloed, especially crypto Twitter, crypto X, right? And it's so limiting to be like, I'm going to build a product in this small silo and just ostracize all these other users, right? In November of 2025, TCG Player pulled in around 26 million users just that month, right? That is the kind of user base that I'm chasing, right?
Yes.
1% of that, and I'm okay with that, right? That's all we need to be successful. And we pushed out like I think an article maybe like a couple weeks back about the money layer, right? We looked at, for these subscriptions for the API, for even just the platform itself, how many users do we actually need to just be profitable, right? At 5,000 reoccurring users per month, like, we're way beyond our targets, right? And I think that just speaks to, again, the immense opportunity here. But, to the point you again just made is like, I've been here for 5 years full time trying to make something work. But the point, there's no reason to just build for Web3 anymore, right? You're not going to grow the pie. You're not going to bring in more users. You're just going to compete for a smaller pie against everyone else who's already building in Web3 right now.
Yeah, I agree. It's absolutely worth it to broaden your horizons. And that's one of the big reasons that we went down the entertainment route as well, is because that's why we have a game show. We're building another game show for the hackathon. We do these live, produce these live, give out real money. And
those out, by the way, when Sean was talking about that, I was like, that's pretty cool. Like,
yeah, you got to check it out. We got loads of clips there. If you go to the YouTube channel, you'll see those most recent episodes. Obviously, we had the MVP, but we've upgraded a lot since. But again, that's the thing. It's like, if we bring entertainment, people are drawn to entertainment. People love game shows. They like to watch people, go through it, win money, lose money, whatever it is. It's just entertainment. Like, that's why game shows always stand the test of time, which is something that we want to bring in. And again, you don't have to be in crypto to watch this and enjoy it. You know what I mean? So it can bring normies over and maybe kind of lose some of that stigma that's been, it's encircled around crypto for so long. And, it's a lot of the time it is warranted, in my opinion, because, 99% of projects do end up failing in this space with tokens. And that kind of brings me back to you as well. There was two questions I wanted to ask you. Number one was, do your competition, let's say the biggest competitor you have, TCG Player, do they have API access as well or no?
So they do, and so does price charting. But what I will say is a lot of these companies are very protective of their data, right? Like they'll give you API access and not give you much at all. And that's exactly one of the things we want to change, right? Granted, it was kind of funny because when I started building this in December, we were, it was still kind of like writing out our unique value propositions and whatnot, and kind of given our vision like aligned with, where I saw this going. And one of the things I talked to this major platform on Solana, who is doing they're doing like 9 figs in volume and stuff, and ended up like jumping on a call with them just to see where we could work together. And it ended up being a call figuring out what they're building is what I'm building. So it got really awkward, but it led on to, to the point that you just asked about, like, is anyone giving this API data out? Like, is anyone giving their internal data out? And most platforms aren't, right? And I say this as someone who's gone to price charting and paid $50 a month just to see, can I use anything that they've built? Can I perhaps, make some of what I'm doing a little bit easier? And it was not that way at all. It was like, I can't believe that these platforms or companies are able to charge $50 for this on a monthly subscription reoccurring basis and not give out anything.
With no data to be really usable, right?
Exactly. Yeah. So that was another big eye opener for me. Right. And I think you talk about some of these things out loud and it's just really hard to believe that, these trading card markets that are doing billions in volume annually don't have modern day trading tools. And that's something.
Yeah. And when you're making that kind of money, it feels like, it's probably by design. You know what I mean? There's probably some manipulation going on there somewhere, and it's in their best interest to keep that bottom line in check. So yeah, hey, I'm all about bringing competition for the market, given the people. I mean, that's kind of the essence of crypto, right? Decentralized, everybody has access to everything, and may the best man win, may the best project win. Open, free, fair markets is the way to go. And it feels like that's kind of what you're trying to do here as well, is give people that data, make it easy for people. A lot of the things in the world, they're overly complicated for a reason. So the insiders get the biggest slice of the pie. But that's why competition is great. Capitalism, that's what you want competition, but you can't have the market stifled as well. We don't want any monopolies out there. So yeah, I think building something like this would be awesome. I really hope Crypto Joe watches this episode. I'll be sure and send it over to him as well. Another question I had for you was the token itself. So I know you kind of discussed roughly about the pricing and the revenue and the business model itself. How do you see the token itself, let's say, tie into your utility or ecosystem here?
Yeah, I think, the most important thing I think to kind of say out loud is I really don't want to rush anything, right? I think, it needs to be very intentional in terms of the route that we go. And, I already have a ton of ideas and, wrote some of these ideas in some of the articles we published. But the first kind of utility bake-in that will eventually come is API costs. So any, say, reoccurring subscription on a monthly basis of where, say, a user wants to use our API, they'll have to pay that in our native token. That native token cost or whatever that is will be burned. But that's just kind of like the first step. I think there's a lot of ways to get really creative, but I don't want to overstep and plan that far in the future, right?
Yes. One step at a time.
Yeah, and I think the most important thing is to build a platform that is actually useful, that is sticky, that people are going to keep coming back to, and as long as we can do that, everything else will follow.
Yeah, and I think that's smart too right now because we've been in the same boat as well. I think a lot of projects are in that kind of in that boat right now because it's we were all kind of waiting for regulation to come down here, and it's easier to like peg it after the fact than try to unpeg it when the regulation comes down and see that oh no, I shouldn't have done that, no I can't do that, no that's illegal, or whatever way you have it tied in, you know what I mean? So I think that's smart. Take your time. You mentioned about community. Tell me about community. How big is the community to you? Do you have a big community? How's that going for you guys? You got a lot of support out there?
Yeah. So we self-organize on X. We have a pretty big X community as well as like an X chat, and as you know, I'm sure like people come and go. But I think that the special thing about the community we have now is there's like I want to say a good group of like 20 guys, 20 girls, guys, gals, whatever it be, who have been here since December. And it's really cool to see people hold for that long, right? We're in
Mhm.
a market
Right.
where people don't even hold for 2 minutes, right? So it's
Right.
cool to see, especially as time goes on, more organic traction come, more people that actually believe in the mission. And the
Mhm.
interesting thing is when I launched a token, I didn't bundle it, I didn't do anything like that. I was like, I know, like, I've had a lot of people told me, like, if you want better price action, high floor value, blah, blah, like you should have bundled it. But I really wanted it to be organic, right? I knew it was
Mhm.
going to be hard. I knew it was going to be difficult. And for me, that's okay because I want to go think about things the legitimate way as opposed to doing everything rooted in Fugazi. So yeah, no,
Mhm.
we've, I think in terms of just by showing up and showing people my moral character, I think that's also helped garnished a lot of support, and it's cool to see that. Like I was saying earlier, we have people that are from just like crypto who had never purchased their first trading cards. And
Mhm.
as they've been in the community for over a month, I start to see them post in our X chat, "Hey, look at this card I bought today," or like, "I'm excited
Nice.
for this Jigglypuff." So yeah, it's an interesting mix of, again, crypto trench degenerates. It's an interesting mix of people who just bought their first crypto for the first time coming into
Mhm.
our community, and then it's also there's also a lot of people that haven't even bought the token, but they just enjoy the idea of what I'm building, so they're going to support. It may
Mhm.
not be by buying the token now, but hey, it's always the ability or the opportunity to convert another person towards actually buying the token, I think, is immense, and that's
Yes.
volumes for our potential growth in the future.
Yeah, well, it's great. It seems like you got some solid cross pollination there. People that aren't really into crypto but into cards coming over, maybe picking up a bit of the token, and then people that aren't really into trading cards that are into crypto picking up a trading card or two, for the cause. So that's really good. I mean, I think that's a great sign. Obviously, the more eyes, and as you build this out more and more, that's going to come with time. What's your plan? Let's say, and I know you're in alpha, and I keep asking these questions, but just to give everybody kind of a feel, and I totally agree. Coming on a show like this, jumping on camera, letting people see the person, talking about it, getting them a feel for the actual developer to show that you're legit. You know what you're talking about, and especially learning it's a real passion project of yours. I think things like that go a long way because people want legit, but they're so skeptical, all the time. And I rightly so. I don't blame anybody for being skeptical. And of course, the more exposure you can get, the more you can get yourself out there. Goes a long way to bridging that gap with your potential investors or your community. Um, so tell me, let's say you get locked in for the hackathon. How does everything change for you the next day? For example, you hire new people, you start growing this, start expediting everything. What does that look like for you?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing that kind of comes to mind with any any potential outside funding is I don't think anything changes, right? Because I feel
Hmm.
like I'm doing everything I need to do to kind of get the platform to being data complete. And one of the interesting things that we started doing about a month ago is we set up our own open claw agent, and we started trying to figure out or solving the problem. How can this agent actively contribute towards the platform, right? How can this agent act like a junior engineer so that we don't need to say go burn 120K a year on paying for a junior engineer? And that's exactly what we're doing, right?
Hmm.
So we're still trying to figure out how to kind of allow this agent to contribute in a way that doesn't harm our system more than it helps. We also wrote an article about this, about setting clear boundaries. I'm not sure if you followed OpenClaw at all, but there's been like a lot of security vulnerabilities and things like that. And
Yeah, I've seen it.
the last thing we want is, this open-ended agent just going and messing up our entire, production app that we've been working on for months. So I think in terms of getting any outside funding is, we already have a budget set for like long-term sustainability and viability. And I think that's, the most important thing first and foremost.
Absolutely.
How do we stay afloat until we start getting that organic traction that we need? We already have a lot of ideas for things that we can do, like collaborations with YouTube streamers. The great thing about these pricing platforms is as people are making, say, like videos for TCG markets, these are videos, hundreds are being made daily, right? So many people are trying to break into like Pokemon streaming, say One Piece streaming. On all those streams, all these people access data platforms to go look at price references, right? So we have so many opportunities for onboarding services. And that's really like where I see the biggest value with being able to kind of get a budget, is being able to, say, sponsor some of these YouTube streamers or hire them on retainer, so that every time they go pick or look at a card price on their stream, they're looking at our website and our platform. I think that's the thing that I'm most excited about for like a bigger budget, is being able to kind of pay for that kind of stuff. Because I mean, as you guys know, marketing is extremely expensive, right?
Yes.
We kind of do things in a way that's conducive to our platform growth and awareness. And yeah, that's the biggest thing I see for a budget in terms of being able to enable stuff like that.
Yeah. And as Sean mentioned too earlier, he can get you access to tons of YouTube streamers, especially in the crypto space. Obviously, I mean, I'm sure it's different in the trading card space, but again, Crypto Joe, he'll have a lot of connects in that space. He's really heavy into it. So make sure we get you guys connected. I'm sure you'd have a great conversation for sure. And of course, like I said, Sean, with Krypton calls and all that, he can get you anything you want. So you guys should have a conversation too, if that's something you're looking at down the line. Do you guys have a Telegram channel?
We do not. I am very like averse to spreading the community thin. We're on X, and I don't want to like have to manage another community, but I get
I feel it, dude. I feel that. I've been so many Telegram channels, dude, that some days I want to blow my brains out because I can't keep on top of all of them. But hey, don't worry about it. We got some interesting things in the pipeline here. I'm going to hit you with a couple of rapid fire questions here. Right? You ready? All right. One word to describe Jigglypuff Kingdom.
Oof, ambition.
All right, I like it. Culture or utility?
Oh, both.
Both. All right. Memes or mechanics?
But I'm gonna have to go both again. I think you got to pull in everything, right? Like you got to have all sides, right?
All right. Well, I got a tough one for you. Jigglypuff or Pikachu?
Ooh, Jigglypuff. Come
on. All right. And finally, moon or dust?
Oh, moon. Always go for the moon.
All right. There we go. It's been great having you on, Groovy. Oh, I got another question. Were you christened Groovy when you were born, or is that? I'm kidding. Well, it's been great having you on, my friend. I really appreciate it. I certainly I see the value in what you're building here. Again, I'm certainly not well versed in the trading card market, but from what you've explained today, you've made it very understandable. I think people that are going to watch this will and are into that niche, I think will definitely resonate with what you've talked about today for sure, because I'm sure they're the ones that are trawling through, multiple websites trying to find the price for their cards. So I definitely see the value in it. And I think going to those trading card conventions and things like that, doing your research in that regard, and being, of course, a passionate card collector yourself, all that goes a long way. Is there anything that maybe we didn't touch on today before we wrap this up that you'd like to get across to anybody watching this now or after the fact?
No, I don't think so. I think we covered everything. Again, I just want to give you guys your kudos. So, like, I think it's pretty incredible. You both are doing this. I'm sure you'll have a larger team behind the scenes. But yeah,
we got three of us. There's one more guy behind the scenes.
Yeah, I mean, you did speak about running lead earlier, so I
get it,
right. You wear so many hats where it's just like I do everything. Thanks so much for having us on. It's awesome that you are doing this, and I think in terms of like some of the awesome stuff that people are doing on Pump.fun, it's great to see you all up there doing this.
Yeah, absolutely. Got any message for Elon or Tim Draper, seeing you're in this before we sign off?
I mean, one message for Elon. I mean, if he wants to respond to my DMs again and not leave them on red, would be cool.
Come on, Elon, get the
You
finger out.
responded once, do it again.
Well, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you, Groovy. Great to have you on the show. You're a very happy chap. I really wish you the best in the hackathon. I hope you do well. I do feel like whether you get a spot in the last remaining 10 or not, I think you're going to continue building this. And best of luck with it all. Thank you so much for coming on, and let's stay in touch. I got to connect you up with Crypto Joe.
Absolutely. Thanks for having us on. Have a good one.
Yeah, everybody, you can visit the website here, JK Index. Is this live yet?
Yeah, it is live. Yeah.
It's live right now, so you can go to jkindex.io, everybody. And if you want to go and follow them on X, you have an X community too?
We do, yeah. So we have an X community, we have an X chat. If you want to get an X chat, slide in my DMs and I'll get you in.
All right, just slide into those DMs, everybody. The X handle is at Jigglypuff_King_. Go check them out. Again, Groovy, thank you so much for coming on the show, my friend. It's been a pleasure. Best of luck.